gravar. Não estava gravando. Então, ele veio para compartilhar com a gente um pouco dessa experiência, né, com toda a construção do movimento, enfim, os aprendizados e tudo mais. Então, ele sabe que são os empreendedores, os investidores e pessoas que fazem parte dessa comunidade, que têm vontade de conhecer um pouco mais sobre o movimento Reconomy. Então, com vocês, gente, o Jay, a gente infelizmente não tem tradução para esse encontro, no futuro a gente espera poder estar mais bem estruturado para isso, tá? Mas então é isso. Jay, thank you so much for your time. Please, these are the investors and entrepreneurs of the Reconomy Rio that are here, and community, people that are getting together and trying to understand a little bit more about the movement and how they can, or, develop their own enterprises, or even, join the community and collaborate somehow. Please tell us about you and all the movement that you have been co-creating in Totnes.
Bom, muito obrigado para esta invitação. É muito prazer para falar com vocês. That's about the extent of my Portuguese. Thanks, everyone. Again, I'm so sorry for making you wait. But I'm really, really thrilled to be able to talk with you and to share some of the story about Reconomy, about the local entrepreneur forum, and I'm really happy that you guys are doing what you're doing there in Rio. Do I need to pause for translation, or does everybody understand English okay?
How are the English people? Okay, because Jay, we didn't have the operation, for the simultaneous translation. So we are doing. I communicated everybody that we wouldn't be able to do the translation. So people that are here, they know about this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, at the moment. Well, I will do my best to speak slowly and clearly. And at the moment, I'm at Schumacher College. Probably some of you have heard of Schumacher. So I'm in one of the rooms, and it's the regenerative economics course here. I'm one of the teachers. And many, many people from Brazil come to Schumacher. And there are, I think, 3 Brazilians on the course with us. So every year it's very exciting. The connection between Brazil and this part of England gets stronger and stronger. We started doing Reconomy about 10 years ago in Totnes, right around the same time that Schumacher's economics course started. I originally came from California and have been living here for about 10 years. One of the things that I was interested in when I moved here was getting involved in the Transition Town movement and Transition Town Totnes. And so I did. And shortly after that, we started the Reconomy project. I'll just give you a little bit of background. And if at any time you want me to stop or slow down, or you don't understand the words that I'm using, just give me a little sign. How many of you have heard about the, the term relocalization? Yeah, social and solidarity economy.
Say it again.
Social
Social
and solidarity economy.
Mm-hmm.
Regenerative, I know you have. Degrowth, there are many, many strands of the new economy fabric, let's say. And so when we started Reconomy, we were inspired by all of them. And we thought, okay, what can we do in our town? We wanted to make the town more resilient. We wanted to provide opportunities for our young people and opportunities to shift from a destructive kind of economy to a more regenerative kind of economy, even though we don't always use those words. And so that was really how we began. A group of us, a much smaller group than all of us here on this call, basically started talking about, well, what can we do? And we started doing things, and that's really all there is to it. We are inspired by certain ways of doing things. So doing things that allow for lots of inclusion, lots of participation. We like to build relationships because we understand that relationships lead to collaborations and lead to networks that can be productive and diverse, and that can lead to innovation. And so in addition to being inspired by these various strands of new economy thinking, we're also inspired by systems thinking, complexity, permaculture, ecology, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the way that we've been doing things for just about 10 years. I have a few slides. So I'll show some slides because there are some images also. Is it okay to share my screen? Let's see, maybe this will work. Okay, and that. So can you see my full screen? Oh, wait. Let's see here. Can you see my full screen now?
Not yet.
It's okay, it's loading. You see a big logo.
We can see the logo, but not
Okay.
the full screen yet.
It's not full screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Yay. So I like to talk about the kind of work and the way we work in terms of citizen-led economic transition. Just to try to capture that feeling of a small group of people trying to do something good, trying to help the economic system transition to something better. Probably there are more exciting names for it, but that's the way I like to talk about it. And what is it all about? Well, it's kind of all about this, leaving a positive legacy, reducing our footprint, helping our young people, all of those things that make life worth living, really. So these are some of the words that I like to use when describing what Reconomy is all about or what we're trying to accomplish. If we want a better kind of economic system, what would it look like? Well, we think, first of all, there's a lot of merit in the bottom-up change So citizens getting together as entrepreneurs, investors, NGOs, just individual people, groups of various kinds, but the bottom-up activity really has a big part to play in making change. We're shooting for something that's fair and inclusive, so something that's just, something that's ecologically wise, and that leads to a thriving social reality. So it's about people, and it's also about all the other living things. And it also has to be resilient and adaptive, which it should be obvious to everyone right now, given all the things that we're going through. And so this is what it looks like. This image is from our 4th Entrepreneur Forum, which was, I guess, about 4 years ago. And I was saying something before about systems thinking and complexity. So this question of how does change happen and how can we make change happen? These are important questions, and there are many answers to those questions. But if we are systems thinkers and we think, well, our economic and social system is a complex, adaptive system, then it makes sense to not be too prescriptive, but rather to try to create the conditions for things to happen. So this is how I like to say it: creating the conditions for new economic actors, new relationships, and new models to emerge and flourish. So here in Totnes, instead of saying, hey, everybody, let's start a cooperative, we said, what if we created the conditions for like 10 to start up? That's been part of our thinking. And how we have gone about that is, well, as I said, based on systems and complexity and all of that. But if we look at, let's see, we look at, I'm looking for my spotlight tool. There we go. So if we look here, catalyzing a regenerative entrepreneurial culture. So entrepreneur is a cultural construct. So we don't need more Mark Zuckerbergs. We need more people like you. So how can we create that kind of cultural shift? Through stories, events, you know, all of those kinds of things help to do that. And it's also, for us, it's also good to remember that an entrepreneurial culture of the kind that we want isn't only about the entrepreneur, because obviously investors play a role, but lots of other people have roles to play too. One of the other things that we've tried to focus on is putting into play the financial and social capital that's already here. So financial capital, everybody knows what that is, money. So here in our area, there are some people who have some money, and not even a lot of money, but they have some money that they could invest or loan or gift. But this is a really important one because the social capital has to do with how we do things. So having that know-how, super important to being able to share how to write a business plan, how to start up a cooperative, etc. Those are all really important bits of know-how, bits of knowledge that not everybody can get out of a book or out of a YouTube video. So it's really good to have people who will stand right next to you and transfer that knowledge. So we've tried to create opportunities for that to happen. From a slightly larger systems perspective, it's important for this change that we have the kind of support structures in place. So we talk in terms of ecosystems, and if there are any academics here, there's a fair amount of literature on entrepreneurial ecosystems. So what does that mean? Things like co-working spaces, things like the local entrepreneur forum. If you do it every year, it becomes part of the ecosystem. local banks, investment clubs, courses, workshops, all of those kinds of things contribute to the kind of enterprising ecosystem that would lead to the kind of regenerative economy that we all like to see. And that last point is just about building networks, and not just building networks with other regenerative economics people, because then we end up in a little bubble, and we only are talking to the same people, looking at the same things, speaking the same language. That gets boring after a while. But we need to talk to other people, new people, diverse arrays of different folks doing different things. So this has been our approach. We started doing the Entrepreneur Forum we started talking about it in 2011. We did our first one the spring of 2012, and it's been really great. We have had over 30 companies come through or got started up. Lots of people played this role of investor, over 900 in fact. A fair amount of money has been invested, but the more important thing from our point of view is the cultural change that is happening, because people now see that they can participate and that they can play a role too in supporting the kinds of businesses that they really like to see. It's been very important. And for other people who think that they might want to start something, they see this happening and they think, oh, it's a possibility. So it's been very important for the local culture. This is kind of what it's looked like for these many years. We get a bunch of people to come together. We do some ice breaking and some network building, because people in England don't like to talk to one another. So we have to help them. And probably this is not a problem for you. And then we do some open space. You guys probably know about open space. It's a really great way for people to meet who they need to meet, learn what they need to learn. This is what it looks like here. Just a bunch of different tables, different people gathering. And you can see lots of different kinds of people. Some people who are kind of, professional, business casual. Somebody brought their baby. If you looked around on the floor, you'd see people who are farmers bringing mud into the room and so on. So a diverse group from our community. This is the oldest entrepreneur in Totnes giving advice to the youngest entrepreneur. That's a joke. Thank you so much for those of you who got a little smile out of it. One of the other things that we've done to try to make matches happen is we have people put up on a wall their needs and their offers. So this is just another little thing to help. And then we have entrepreneurs pitch to the community of dragons. And as you know, we let everybody play this role of investor. We call it the community of dragons. And of course, all of the projects that pitch meet some criteria. So they're basically regenerative projects. So this is Eric from Grow Cycle. They grow mushrooms from coffee grounds. This is Myrtle. She started up a wild food business. So they pitch, and then people say, okay, I'll give you 100 pounds, or I'll loan you 1,000 pounds, or I'll give you 10 pounds if somebody else gives you 10 pounds, or I'll help you with your business plan, or I'll help you with your website, or I'll make you a video, or I'll introduce you to somebody in my network, or I know you didn't ask for this, but I have a bicycle, you can have my bicycle, or I'll make you lunch, or I love what you're doing, I'll bake you a cake, or I'll tweet for you, or I'll give you a hug because I think what you're doing is awesome. So we try to shift the story. So we call all of those things investments. And what kind of return do you get on that investment? A better place to live. And so this is what we've been doing for a long time now. It's worked pretty well. You can see these are the numbers. I can share this presentation if you want. That's our criteria. Lots of different kinds of companies have started. These guys here are, again, they're a technology company. This is a farm. We've had a couple of different farms pitch. This one here, Revolutionary Women. That's all about having older women who've been through some things be kind of a mentor to younger women who are struggling a bit. So it's been a whole range of things. Have you guys heard of Rob Hopkins? Rob Hopkins started a brewery. This is his brewery. So they pitched the very first one. And one of the other things that's been really important, which we did not really anticipate, we didn't plan for this to happen, is how all of these companies became connected to one another. So this is just a very simple map of that network. And what happens when you get a network like this is that things begin to emerge, positive things that you didn't anticipate. So it's been very important for our resilience in terms of our local economy. We've also, in addition to the local entrepreneur forum, we've also gotten a hold of a little space, and we made it an incubation and co-working space. We call it the Reconomy Center. And the nice thing about this story is that you see this guy here with the blue tie? He's from the conservative political party, but he became a champion for us because there was a lot of common ground. So he's a local politician, but because he's local, he also cares about this place. And so even though I'm very much not a conservative, probably most of the people who are part of transition would say that they're Greens or Labor voters. This kind of project and this kind of approach allowed us to build bridges. And we've been doing that ever since. Some more pictures of that, a little bit more on what we were used to call a transition-oriented enterprise. So you would recognize this model as being very similar to other models around regenerative enterprise or ethical or sustainable. We started 10 years ago, and 10 years ago, it wasn't a desert, but there wasn't a lot going on. Now, 10 years later, there's lots of stuff going on in our region. So we've expanded our influence from our little town to our wider region. And we do events to help build those diverse networks. And that's been really important. We have good relationships with the local governments now. One of the things that has started up is a bank, a cooperative bank, which is maybe going to start doing business next year. Schumacher College is part of this. We launched a sister project in the next door town. Altwork is all about helping young people. So it's been a really great journey. And with every great journey, one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. And so it's been fantastic. The last thing I'll say is that we're also part of an international network, the Community of Practice. And just after you guys do your local entrepreneur forum, we're going to try to do a virtual trans-local entrepreneur forum, which will be online. So that's just, I think, about a week after yours. So if you want to learn more, we have a Facebook group. And that's it. That's my presentation. And I'm sorry it was all in English. Adoro português brasileira e espero que falar muito melhor. Mas não. I have no idea what I said.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Okay, somebody. Okay, Pedro has a question for you.
Well, hello, Jay. Thank you very much for being here with us. First, you shouldn't be upset with the problem with the time, because we profited the 1 hour we had together to enhance the network we are building here. It's amazing how the work with Mel and Vilma and Lucas is really creating a bond among us, and it's really growing slowly, not so slowly, but pretty fast actually. And we are very happy with this methodology that we were presented to. But I have a question for you, because we've seen already here in some initiatives around here, Rio, some people trying to organize this kind of offer and demands convergence that you showed in one of the slides on a board. But that would be very interesting to be done, but not on a board. Now we have a pandemic and it's really like everything is a bit upside down. We are running a business that is pretty much presential.
Was
until the pandemic. So now we are having to change a bit, but we like very much this idea, and we've seen it tried in other initiatives, and it didn't quite work. So my question is, do you have any tips about how to do it, for instance, on a website? What would be the best strategy to try to converge locally needs and offers from people? It's a pretty pragmatic question.
I think, yes, it is a pragmatic one for sure, and thank you for asking it. I think there are a few ways to look at it. So what we've done is we put that up on the walls for our events, and it didn't really work so well. But what it did is just contributed a little bit to the idea that it might work. And so what happened is it started conversations. And those are the things that worked in the events when we were doing them. There's something called the Post-Growth Institute. And let's see, Post-Growth Institute. And one of the things that they have tried are a similar kind of marketplace of needs and offers. And so they built an event around this kind of matchmaking. And I'm not sure how successful it's been, but it's also not very far away from the concept of asset-based community development. And it's also known as ABCD. This is something that comes from Chicago originally, and it's used by social workers who, if you know about social work or have an idea in your head, there's a lot of social work that has happened up until now, like this. Okay, what's wrong with you? We're going to come and fix it. Well, that approach doesn't really work. So what ABCD says is, okay, what do we have? What can we do? And so it shifts things around. And so in that way, you know, what can we do? What can you do? What are your skills? What are your talents? That kind of needs offers matchmaking begins to happen also. So this was one of our inspirations for the local entrepreneur forum and the way that we do it. And so this also makes me start thinking about the local exchange trading systems and time banks and things like that. So I guess my advice would be, don't worry about it so much. Try some things, and if you design things such that people end up in a relationship, then things will resolve themselves naturally.
I understand, yes. Yeah, we are doing some educational work and some como é que eu escreveria a nossa atividade da Jaco?
We use the use of green jackfruit.
Young jackfruit.
Green jackfruit to build to bring some educational environmental education. So
and we are somehow trying to become a local hub of some kind. We don't know still, and some maybe some kind of. That's why I asked that, because I thought if we had a kind of convergence like the offers and needs thing in our website or whatever, that could be help create this convergence around us. Like
we have a space, we have a school at home, and we also have a big, huge offer of jackfruit around in the city, in the area. So this is como é que se diz pretexto? It's a good excuse to gather people and to change, and to also there's a lot of offer of the fruit, and there's a lot of need of it, and we have the culture to how to manage it.
That sounds amazing.
So it's we are in between. So the idea would be for a center of exchanging, or even in a square. In a square, I've tried before, and it doesn't work very well. But maybe it could be something.
Digitally could be a better option.
Yeah.
But I understand. Just throw the initiative, and then
how
if it happens, okay. If it doesn't happen so much, okay, we can always just try.
Yeah, we've tried a lot of things that don't work. So failure is part of the process.
It's important to try.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rayan had a question.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi, Jay. Thank you very much for your experience and for sharing it with us today. You've mentioned right at the beginning of your presentation the term degrowth, and I would like to know, what does it mean to talk about degrowth while we are in a society that we can go backwards in terms of population and money in its core. I'm sorry. In its raw meaning, how does it work when you talk talking about locally, and how does it spread? You know, what it really means to talk about degrowth.
Well, that's a really great question. I think first thing to say is that the IPCC report that came out a couple of years ago said that we had to dramatically reduce our carbon emissions by 2030, I think by 45% around the world, so global emissions. And subsequent reports have talked about the need to reduce our overall impacts by, dramatic proportions. And so the carbon emissions are associated with the growth of GDP, but also the material throughput of our economic system is also very tightly linked to GDP. So the stuff that we consume and the CO2 that we put in the atmosphere is very much correlated with the kind of economic activity that we have. And you're right, we need to, for those places that don't have enough money and don't have enough stuff, they need to have more money and more stuff. There are places, Europe, USA, Japan, other places that have too much money and too much stuff. So degrowth is it's a little bit of a movement. It's mostly a movement within academic circles, I would say, more than a popular movement. And it's more as a discourse, it's more well known among academics, and especially in continental Europe. And their story is not all that much different from the transition story, which is, as a planet, too much of an impact. We're having way too much of an impact. And we don't just need to stop the impact and continue at some basic level. We need to reduce our impact. So it would be great if we could reduce our impacts and also have GDP still growing, assuming, of course, there's just redistribution and everybody gets enough. But so far, the research shows that this is not possible. So what they say is, look, we can reduce our economic activity and still live really well. We can still have those things that are important for living a good life. And in fact, those things that are important for living a good life, those are things that can continue to grow indefinitely, because those are things like love, health, fresh air, trees, the beach, clean ocean, et cetera, et cetera. So they talk about conviviality. Conviviality, probably there's a word in Portuguese that is like that. Convivialidade.
Can you write that word?
Yeah. Convivial. So convivial, I think it has a Latin root. It probably means like living well together.
Convívio.
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 So it's very much in line with similar movements, Bienestar, and other movements that say, look, we can have a good life, but we don't need to consume so much stuff and chase after money so much. What we need is a just system. If we had a just system, then everybody could have enough. So what does that look like? And it would look like, for some people, they get more. And for people who have too much, they get less.
So in a certain way, it wouldn't be literally degrowth. It means like reducing our economic activity and some kind of way redistributing it, what some certain countries have,
Yeah,
right?
so
or it's another way of seeing it.
Yes. It does mean less of a certain kind of economic activity. So it's a really interesting area to look into, because it does relate to many other analyses that are not reported in the corporate-owned press, and they're not part of the popular political discourse. But for example, most economic activity is not counted in GDP. It's the stuff that moms do at home. So we don't really value the work that has traditionally fallen upon women to do in the home. That's economic, and it helps to reproduce the system and the household and so on. So if we had a proper view of what economic activity is in general, then we would say certain kinds of economic activity has to just plain, it just has to stop. like deforestation or, you know, mining or depopulating the oceans of fish. We just can't do that. But there are other forms
We
of...
have, and I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you,
that's okay.
but
Go
you
ahead.
were talking about moms. And we have here Camila. I don't know, probably she's just listening, and she has a project with us the main goal for her is to work with moms and to work with you know, some kind of what we call here, I don't know if you use the same term there invisible work at
Yes.
home, you know.
Mm.
So it's very interesting for you to mention the same thing that we have here.
Mm. Well, I don't know what
thank
the
you.
project is, but it
For,
sounds like a great project. And Glaucia has just put something in the chat from Serge Latouche. So Serge Latouche is one of the leading voices of degrowth. Are there any other questions?
I have one question, and thanks for being here with us. Thanks for your time. And do you have, or did you ever seen any kind of map or any kind of app, any kind of website that shows some kind of a map of Reconomy entrepreneurs and investors or initiatives or something like this? Do you think it would work?
A
Or do
map,
you know?
did you
Yeah.
say, or an app?
Yeah, a map, app format or web app format, or a catalog.
There are various mapping projects out there that depict what I would generally call sort of progressive initiatives or businesses. Have you guys heard of the Blessed Unrest? Paul Hawken. So Paul Hawken, I'll type his name in.
Yeah, please.
He's an interesting guy. He was one of the co-authors of something called Natural Capitalism, which is, gosh, over 20 years old and kind of lays out the main tenets of a regenerative business, or at least part of it, you know, going from products to services, regenerating the ecosystems and so on. And then he wrote a book called The Blessed Unrest. And then he also is part of a project called Project Drawdown, which catalogs the practical things that need to happen to reduce our CO2 emissions, which is very good. So Project Drawdown. Project Draw Down. But he, reason I mentioned him is because of Blessed Unrest. So if you look on YouTube for Blessed Unrest, you'll find Paul Hawken giving a talk to a conference in California when he's introducing the book. And he said, you know, I have this feeling there are great things happening all over, but you just don't hear about them because there isn't a map or a catalog. So he got some research assistants to try to create, oh, well done, Mel, to try to create a catalog of all the great initiatives. And there are hundreds of thousands. There are more than they could count. So he wrote, so that is why he calls the book The Blessed Unrest, because it's the Blessed Unrest. It kind of conjures up this image of a rising up, and it's a rising up of, I guess, the forces of good all over the place. So that was a bit of a tangent. Practically speaking, I think if there are maps in various places of various kinds of initiatives, And the ones that I've seen tend to be, you know, snapshots, or, well, the maps I've seen are more like snapshots. You know, there's a lot of effort to create the map over a short period of time. It becomes populated and then it becomes neglected. There's an association in the United States called Green America that, do you remember in the old days, telephone and the phone book? You get a book of everybody's phone number. So they started doing the green pages. And so there's a catalog basically of all the green businesses in the States that come through their program. There's a really nice project in Florianopolis, an observatory, which is an online map. That might be a good model. And there's a really good map of progressive businesses and initiatives in Portugal. And I can't remember what that is, but I'll try to find it. I'm sorry, I didn't really answer your question very well.
Oh, you did. Thanks. I didn't know the Florianopolis project that you mentioned. And it's nice to know that there is one in Portugal too.
Jay,
Yes.
I want to ask something. I want to confirm a point with you. Do you think that events are a good key, a good strategy to spread the Reconomy speech, Reconomy culture?
Do I think events are very good? Yes, I do. I think they're really important because social reality happens in a place with other people, and the best way for people to pick up new ideas and to learn things is with other people in a place. So I'm a big fan of doing events and using methods like open space and other participatory kinds of facilitation. So we've been doing that for the last many years here in our region, and it's produced a lot of good results. And even, you know, this past summer with the lockdown, we did a big conference here called the Regenerate Devon Summit. Let's see. And it was one of the most successful events we've ever done. And we had 600 something odd people. And the most important thing is we had about 70 people from the public sector, 70 people from local government and institutions who participated. And they came away interested in regenerative economics, donut economics, well-being economics, et cetera, et cetera. The number one word that was used over and over again during the conference was love. So, and that was an online thing. So yes, I'm a big believer.
Jay.
Thank you.
Jay, hello. My name is Marisa. I am partner of Pedro. I would like to ask you for an event like that. So it was online. I assume it was online, right? 600 people?
Yeah, it was all Zoom.
How do you publicize the event? What media you use to publicize? How do you connect with people around, with people or the neighbors or people from everywhere? How do you publicize it? What do you use?
Well,
The Schumacher School.
Well, ever since I've been involved in Reconomy, we've always kind of looked at complexity and systems thinking for trying to understand how we can work. And everything points to working in networks. And networks work best on personal relationships. So we started building networks, and they started out by having coffee with somebody. And then you get a small group of people together, and then you throw an event. And the people who come to the event come because they're part of the networks of those people who put it on. So when we did our first Devon Convergence event, I was on the phone, I was typing emails. Hey, Bill, you got to come. Hey, Sam, you got to come. Hey, Maria, you got to come, and bring your networks. And so those people came and they brought their networks. And there's a really fantastic academic paper on networks called The Strength of Weak Ties. And this is one of those papers where
Strength of Weak Ties.
Yeah, you read it and you go, it's common sense, but it's that golden pearl of wisdom that can really help you break through. So what's the number one complaint of every transition group, every sustainability group, every permaculture group? It's always the same. You know, we throw an event and always the same people come.
That's the question, the X of the question.
Yeah,
So
how to go out of the bubble.
Here's why. You use the same language. We come together because we like the same things. We're interested in the same things. And so we talk the same language. Probably we're all wearing similar clothing. I can't tell what you guys are wearing, but you can see who's in your tribe pretty easily. And you say certain things and people know what you're talking about. Hey man, regenerative economics. Yeah, we're part of the same tribe. Well, what happens is that you have a closed bubble, like you said, of people who think and talk like you. So how do you reach more people? You have to get out of your bubble. You have to use different language. You have to find those people. So what one of the key insights in this paper is that we have these strong tie networks. And this is also why we have that small world phenomenon. So if I went to Brazil and, you know, I came to your event and met Mel, I'd probably meet 5 or 10 other people that I knew. Oh, you're interested in regenerative economics? Yeah, me too. Well, obviously, because we're working in the same networks, and if we're interested in the same things, then probably we know some of the same people, and so on and so on. So if we want to reach new people, then we have to find those people who are linked to other networks. And these might be people who are not so strongly tied. So maybe there's somebody that you know who they're not so interested in green and regenerative, but you know them and you like them because maybe your kids are friends, or maybe it's the guy at the corner shop or whatever. Well, that person also has a network. That person might be a weak tie for you, but they could be a bridge into another network. Or maybe you say, okay, I want to get into another network. Maybe I'll try to be that bridge. So for us here in our region, we're thinking, okay, we're interested in doing things in a certain way, but we don't know anybody doing renewable energy. All right, how do we break into that network? Go to one of their meetings, try to meet somebody who's in that network. We don't have anybody who's in local government. Oh man, people in local government are horrible. You don't want those people. Oh yeah, we do. So how can we find them? So you go to a meeting, you find someone who's, what about the people in the Conservative Party? How do we get them on board? Those are horrible people. No, we don't want anything to do with them. Well, no, they're different. So how do we get those people? You find someone who's a link into that network. And so this is just what we did. And you know, we haven't solved all the world's crises yet, but that's how we began to reach into other networks. So this is why we did this event in July and we had 600 people. We built the networks and we did the work. So we used social media and stuff like that, but we used our networks all along the way.
Yeah, we are very good in building. Myself, I am very good in building new networks. But problem is how to manage it. To manage it, because it's big, it's huge. Is there any tools to help with that?
Well, there are a couple ways to look at it. So one way would be, how can you be in productive relationship without managing it?
Yes.
And this is where we start getting into the ideas around the commons and stuff like that. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is, a social network platform or something like that. My experience is that the sort of hierarchical kind of hub and spoke network model.
Sorry, I don't understand. Can
Well,
you repeat?
if you use the word, how do we manage a network? So that assumes a certain amount of control and maybe a hierarchy where you have a small number of people at the top, who are managing, they're setting up all the meetings and so on, and they have a certain amount of control. And there are ways of doing that. For example, sociocracy is a pretty good
Sociocracy.
Yeah.
Sociocracia ou lacracia era o que a gente usava na Terra, Mar.
Tá. Aí você tem como me passar isso depois?
Uhum.
Of course, we need more people to help us, but we have registered so many numbers, so many names, all people who came to have classes with us. All our I begin a club of ex-pupils to this is working, but it's a matter of time to manage all of that. So there must be some platform or some tool for helping with that.
Ma.
Well, the transition network is looking at this platform here.
Mm-hmm.
That could be something.
Okay, thank you.
O que eu entendi também que ele trouxe é de olhar para essa intenção de gerenciamento de network e mudar a visão do gerenciamento de network para como que a gente ativa o nosso network, né, juntos. Então, o gerenciar tem esse olhar do controle, né? E o ativar tem um olhar de estamos juntos com forças e potências e autonomias distribuídas, né? Por isso que ele traz a questão da sociocracia, e aí tem a possibilidade da holacracia, do O2, que são outros campos, né, de investigação de governança distribuída, de governança horizontal. Aí é uma questão de visão, né, que eu achei bem bom. Just bringing a little more about sociocracy, holacracy, and here I don't know if you have heard, Jay, but here we have some people in Brazil called Target 2. They are a social business, and they created a new kind of governance too. That's called O2. It's organizations, organic organizations. It's a mix of sociocracy, holacracy, and bringing together more of the non-violent communication. They developed something very, very nice, and we have been studying that. Yeah,
that sounds great.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mais alguma coisa, gente, que a gente queira saber do Jay, para a gente aproveitar que o Jay está aqui.
Hi, Jay.
Hello, Julia.
My name is Julia. Thank you for your presentation. It's really nice to meet you. I would like to know about the size of these events, presential events, and the engagement. you talked about the Reconomy movement and the events. They are all in Totnes, right? Or around it? That's what I understood. I might be mistaken. And I know that Totnes is a really small village in England. And I would like to know how do you see this movement in big cities like São Paulo or Rio? Like how do you see this movement spreading in a place so with so many different people? It's a quite different environment for this to happen in comparison to Totnes. And that's it. Thank you.
Really good question. And everybody's watching you right now to see how you do it. That was a little bit of a joke. What I meant was everything seems impossible until somebody does it. And so what you guys are doing in Rio is amazing. And so everybody's watching because it is amazing. And there are going to be lots of people who want to learn from your innovations. I think Reconomy, so there are lots of social entrepreneurs out there, or, you know, green entrepreneurs, regenerative entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, you know, businesses with a mission. There's the whole Sistema B thing. I know a lot of that is kind of corporate, but, you know, there are a number of ways of thinking about business that are solutionary, let's say. There aren't a lot of citizen-led groups that are thinking in terms of supporting a system that can produce or support lots of those kinds of businesses. So there aren't a lot of groups doing this kind of thing out there, but it is happening in lots of different places under different names, and there's some overlap with local government initiatives and with NGOs of various kinds. In terms of Reconomy as a certain flavor of this kind of activity, there has been in Britain some work in London. So there was a successful local entrepreneur forum that was run in Brixton, and some other things that happened in Brixton. They had their own money, Brixton pound, but they didn't keep at it. So if you only do this kind of thing once, then it's just an event. If you do it every year, it becomes part of the culture, and that's when the real changes start to happen. This kind of thing has been done in Japan in a rural environment. So the biggest city that this kind of thing has happened has been in London so far. Can it work in a city? I don't know. I know that there's a strong solidarity economy movement in Montreal and one in New York. But I don't know is the answer. But, you know, there's all kinds of other things that are happening and changing. So one thing that has excited people around here is the donut. So maybe you guys have heard about donut economics. And well, there's been a convergence of various things coming together, but there's been a donut in Amsterdam. Amsterdam's a pretty big city. And the reason I said convergence is because the people who were working there are also working in circular economy, and they're also part of the C40 network. The C40 network, I don't know if Rio was part of that, is it? Anyway, the C40 network is a network of some of the biggest cities in the world. I think it's more than 40 now, it's like 100. And they're sharing best practices and doing different things. So there's a lot of activity everywhere, kind of, you know, happening from this angle, from that angle. And I think if we work in a way that is, like I was saying before, that is aware of the different networks and is building relationships, then that creates the opportunity to make things work and to evolve and adapt and innovate. And so we're all waiting to see what you guys accomplish there in Rio, because we'll learn from that, and that might unlock new possibilities for people here in Britain or people elsewhere in Europe, maybe, and certainly in Brazil. But yeah.
I believe, thank you for your answer. I believe any initiative that is in this direction starts small and begins to spread, right? So, but that's interesting about Brixton and in London. I didn't know about the local money. So these kind of initiatives, we can see they are starting to emerge from all over the world, right?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff happening all over, but we don't often hear about them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jay,
Okay. Just one more question. Could we go like this? Because I know that Jay has some teaching to do too. Okay, go ahead, Paulo.
Mine is not exactly a question. It's the doubt of his last answer. When I didn't understand, I think that he said that there are kind of movements happening and other not happening too much. I don't know what was support movements. I didn't get that part.
Well, I guess the main thing I was saying is that one is there's a lot of stuff that's happening in big cities that is compatible with Reconomy. So that's aligned with what you're doing and what I'm doing here. It may not be exactly the same, but it would have similar goals and so on. And the second thing is this kind of thing, I think, has worked in a big city, but whether or not it can continue to work, we don't know, because it hasn't really been tried. So what you guys are doing is really interesting for that reason. Does that answer your question, Paulo?
Yeah.
Gente, tá muito bom. A gente tá aqui há 2 horas maravilhosas juntas, assim, como sempre, eu saio super nutrida. Jay, I just thank you so much for us to being together here. And this is a very, very strong network that it's coming up. We just we had no idea that we would be so close to each other for some period, like I don't know, 3 months that we have been together. I think that's it, isn't it? And only online. Most of the people here, they never met each other personally. Some of us know each other personally, but most of us we don't. And it's very nice to be together. It's very nice to have you here with us, inspiring and helping us to look forward in this path that we have been choosing together. And thank you so much to be here with us. November 10th will be our forum online, unfortunately, but for the next year, we hope that we are going to be presential and having all of those beautiful things that you showed on the pictures, with the co-creation and the open space. We hope that will come through soon. And guys, want to ask something else to Jay so we can say goodbye? It's okay for us to say goodbye now? It is?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I wish you guys the best of luck on the 10th. And it's my pleasure. So anytime, just let me know and we can have another chat. And we have this Reconomy community of practice thing too. So that might be another way to stay in contact. But best of luck and hopefully see you soon in person too one day.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good luck
We
to
hope
you
to have
too.
you here soon.
Yay.
Come visit us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Viu, chat?
Bye.
Thank you. C40. C40.
Olha,
Então, já
aqui,
tô
onde
O que é o
rapidinho.
C40?